We need a new one. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Paramahamsa Madhvācārya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Madhvācārya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So, I just want to, before we begin, I want to thank you all for coming out on this cold night. And and those in Zoom land. And so I just wanted to express my gratitude. Michelle, thanks for coming all the way. Laguna Beach, is that where you live? Oh, yeah, Laguna Beach. Can you imagine? Thank you. Okay, so on this 5th day of January 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are beginning the introduction today on page number 1. Chant after me. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Mahāprabhu Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaeyam Tadati Sapadantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? All right, we'll do this one, a portion of a line at a time. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lagunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Padijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Shivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishakha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho, Dinabandho Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute. Almighty Krishna, ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of all creation. You are the master of the cowherd men and the lover of the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Okay, before I read the translation, one note on pronunciation. Notice how all the I's at the end of these different designations of Radharani, Gaurangi and Vrindavaneshwari, Devi, and that's it, 3. They're all short. There's no line over there because you're addressing her directly. So it's not Gaurangi, it's Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. It's unusual because most of the time we see Devi and so forth like that. So just keep that in mind. And also, one other thing I noticed, when we chanted the first one, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, everyone's saying Guruve because it kind of, guru, right? But no, it's Gurave. There's an A there. So yes, so just keep that in mind next time we chant it. Okay, moving along. Now, this one also. The tendency is to make the long A's short, as in Gopi Puranadana, instead of Gopi Puranadana, because it comes from the word prana, which is long A. So here we have in Vansha Kalpatarubhischa. Notice both of those A's are long. Vansha, not Vansha. Because Vansha Kalpatarubhischa, I once figured out what that actually means to someone who knows Sanskrit. Vanchaka means to cheat, and Alpa means small. So Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha means I offer my obeisance to the devotees who are just like small cheating trees. Is that what we want to say? No. So let's say Vansha instead of Vancha. All right, let's move along. I put that on pause, so here we go. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas, and all the others in the line of devotion. Okay, we can chant this together. in unison. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Bhagavad Gita is also known as the Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of the Bhagavad Gita available in English, but as far as I have seen, not only in America but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The spirit of the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of the Bhagavad Gita is Lord Sri Krsna. He is mentioned on every page of the Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to any powerful person or any powerful demigod, and certainly here, Bhagavan designates Lord Sri Krsna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Sri Krsna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters, like Śaṅkarācārya, Rāmānujācārya, Madhvācārya, Nimbārka Svāmī, Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord himself also establishes himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita, and he is accepted as such in the Brahma Samhita and all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Bhagavad Purana, Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, we should take the Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the Personality of Godhead himself. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this introduction, in case you're not familiar with how it came to be, Srila Prabhupada dictated this introduction alone in his quarters uptown before even there was any hint of 26 2nd Avenue. When he came to New York, he had one contact, Dr. Mishra, who already had established a yoga studio in Upper Manhattan. And Prabhupada was able to live there for some time, and also he attended, when there was a meeting there of the students, he would come, and Dr. Mishra sometimes let him speak. But they were not on the same page exactly philosophically. Dr. Mishra was more or less an impersonalist. And when he saw that Prabhupada, then known as Swamiji, was getting influence with his students, he kind of eased him out of the studio and gave him a room, which was really just an office on Riverside Drive, which is right near the Hudson River. So anyway, Prabhupada, to bathe and to cook, he had to walk over to the ashram. So it was an austerity. It got to be winter time. He came in September, and by that time it was getting to be winter. But someone gave Prabhupada a reel-to-reel tape recorder. You've probably seen those. Those are kind of ancient now. I had one of those a long time ago. And Prabhupada made use of it by recording this whole introduction alone in his room. Now, eventually that tape recorder was stolen. Prabhupada said, probably by the superintendent himself, getting into his room. But he didn't take the tape that the introduction was on. That was the real treasure. He didn't care about the tape. So that had an important effect on Prabhupada. It kind of disillusioned him about staying there. He had a couple of people who were coming. Visualize a room that 10 feet in here, and maybe to the edge of the door. This was Prabhupada's whole quarters. And people would come, a few people would come, and he would preach to them, But having gotten robbed, he said, well, I could get robbed again. It's not a safe place. So when the invitation came for him to come downtown and set up there on the Bowery, he took it. And that was how Krishna moved him. And eventually, he started 26 Second Avenue. But while he was up there, he had a lot of time on his hand. He was, of course, writing. He was always typing and writing his Bhagavatam commentaries, or maybe it was the Gita he was working on. But he took advantage of it, and he dictated his whole introduction, which is really a book in itself. We've published this many years ago. This was Sura's idea, to take this introduction and have it as a separate little book. I don't know if it's in print anymore, but so that's part of the history of this introduction. And now to the substance of what we've read so far. So, of course, what we have read with all of these verses and the translations is called the Mangalacharan. Mangalacharan are verses that are placed at the beginning of any significant book. You'll find them in the Caitanya Charitamrita and in the Bhagavatam. The first 3 verses are kind of the Mangalacharan, giving the subject of the book, the glories of the book, and often prayers, like in the CC, for benediction for the readers and things like that. So here Srila Prabhupada has given us this wonderful Mangalacharan, which we can apply anytime. This has been integrated into the Pushpanjali mantras. If you come at any time for the disappearance or appearance of Prabhupada, of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we don't know an appearance of Gaur Kishore, or the appearance, or Bhaktivinoda's appearance or disappearance. We have a Pushpanjali here, usually around noon, and we'll say these prayers. So these are very, very significant. They're a way of really recognizing our position as, very indebted to all these previous personalities, beginning with Krishna himself, and the language is coming down through these great personalities, and such as Rupa Goswami is mentioned here, and of course this wonderful verse which is composed by Krishna's Kaviraj, Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalang. It's very wonderful to chant those anytime. So now Srila Prabhupada, in what we've read so far, he's establishing, first of all, the reason for the book. This is also part of Mangalacharan, because there was a crying need for Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's a great treasure for human society, but when it's not translated or commented on properly, it becomes a misguidance. The real benefit can't be there. And I read the Bhagavad Gita long before I even heard about Hare Krishna. Give me 700 verses, it's not very long. There was no commentary, there was no Sanskrit or anything. And it was fascinating, but I had no idea what I was supposed to do from that. But the Bhagavad Gita is normative. This is a word that I learned when I went to college. It means it's a philosophy or a series of statements that's meant to guide you in your life. It's meant to bring about a revolution in the misguided life of this civilization. That's from Bhagavatam, but it's true of Bhagavad Gita also. So in order to do that, it has to be presented genuinely. It can't be used for some ulterior purpose or somehow twisted to justify some impersonal philosophy. Now, Prabhupada often quotes Śaṅkarācārya here because Śaṅkarācārya said, Narayano paro vyaktat, which means Narayan is the Supreme. Narayana paro vyaktat, although he's invisible, he's not seen. So that's a very important statement. Here's the founder of the impersonal philosophy, the writer of the Sharika Bhashya on the Vedanta Sutra, which all the Mayavadis study and they justify. But he himself, I don't know if you know the secret background of Śaṅkarācārya. He's an expansion of Lord Shiva who was instructed by Krishna to write this impersonal philosophy of the Vedanta Sutra in order to misguide the people. And really the other understanding is that the Vedas were being misused. Because part of the Vedas, there is a certain place where it's, you sacrifice an old cow, but the mantras are such that it gives the cow immediately a new life, and so it's not cow slaughter. But they were being misused at a certain point in history in India for cow slaughter, for meat eating. So Buddha comes along, who's also an expansion of Krishna, to teach non-violence and not referring to the Vedas. He rejected the authority of the Vedas. So that was, and Buddhism became ascendant there in India in a certain period of history. And so there were fewer cows being slaughtered. But in order for the people to benefit, the authority of the Vedas had to be reestablished. So this Mayavad brought people back to the authority of the Vedas because he's relying on the Vedanta Sutra. It's not just his own philosophy. But it had to be covered Buddhism. There were verses behind this, and describing all of this. So it was similar to Buddhism. Buddhism is voidist, and the Mayavad is impersonal. No nirvishesha. We think of nirvishesha shunyavadi. The shunyavadi, the Buddhism, they say everything is void ultimately, you don't exist. And then you'll really be happy when you realize that, supposedly. And then the impersonal say, no, you exist, but all of the form and name and qualities and activities you're doing are illusion. And the ultimate reality is just a white light, with no activities or anything. Beyond the range of birth, death, old age, and disease. How wonderful it is. But that's a complete misinterpretation of the actual essence of the Vedas. But it reestablished the authority of the Vedas. Then Rāmānuja comes along, and Madhvācārya, and of course Lord Chaitanya. Big debates against the Mayavadis. And converting them. When you convert the top man, then all the others become your devotees. Lord Chaitanya did that. This is the way it works. So that fight is going on. Prabhupada is part of that fight. That's why oftentimes you'll see in his book, why is he wailing against the Mayavadis? Because he's coming from that. We're also impersonalists. Hedonism is a form of impersonalism, denying any ultimate authority that can punish you or anything, Anyway, so Prabhupada is here talking about the necessity of a genuine Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's why he called it as it is. All right, any comments on these points?
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we got a local with Bob. There's the mic.
Yes, I can wait, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Dravida. I'm just curious about this first publishing of the Bhagavad Gita that you read before you met the Krishna. Now, did it refer to Krishna as all the different names?
You mean the Bhagavad Gita that I read?
Yeah.
Okay, it was the Penguin edition. It was just a little paperback because it didn't have any commentary or anything.
And it was English?
English translation, of course. And so, I don't recall it. I mean, the translations were more or less accurate, I guess. But there's a certain leeway for translating. Like Prabhupada, when the word yoga appears, he often translates it as Krishna consciousness. In other words, bhakti yoga. So that can be just meditative yoga or whatever. There are certain understandings. And the point was he wasn't referring to any commentation. And I don't recall at all it being an encouragement to surrender to Krishna and to practice bhakti yoga in the present age. It was more or less a historical book full of interesting ideas, spiritual ideas, and then there was chapter 11, very dramatic, But it didn't give any definite direction to do anything.
I think what I'm asking is, sometimes Arjuna will, Janardana and all the different names of Krishna. I have a copy of Bhagavad Gita that's very old, and it's all English, and it doesn't have Krishna's name in it. It just says God said.
Yeah, right. Typical.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't remember. Whatever it was written. It was undoubtedly done by some academic. And it didn't have much bhakti at all. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. So when I was reading on the chapters of Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga and so on, so even Karma Yoga has been translated as devotional service. So what is the reason for that? Because the literal translation of Karma Yoga wouldn't be, Bhakti Yoga.
Yeah. And well, it usually comes out in the purport that the essence of Karma Yoga is that's on the altar. Is sacrificing the fruits of your labor, giving up the fruits of your labor, so you don't stay attached. So Prabhupada says you don't get bound by the fruits, right? So Prabhupada makes the point. Well, that's integrated into Bhakti Yoga, in that you're meant to sacrifice the fruits of your labor for the pleasure of Krishna, and you find that people who are not able to practice full time, a lot of their practical service is helping to support the temple, like Dhananidara, who helped do this whole patio and so many other things. It's a wonderful service that he's doing. So he's giving some of his hard-earned money. That's the karma yoga in a sense. There's a verse in the 3rd chapter which is about karma yoga. Yagyartart kamano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana. Which means that all the work that you do has to be performed as a sacrifice for yagya, which is another name for Vishnu. It's interesting. Otherwise, that work will bind you to this world. So you can see how that's the part of Bhakti Yoga. If you're really thinking of it, it's not just giving up the fruits to Krishna. And so in a sense, you can see that's also part of Bhakti Yoga. So Prabhupada wanted to emphasize the point that the culmination and the essence of all of the yogas, whether it's karma, jnana, dhyana, of course bhakti, is purification of the self, getting rid of the sinful reactions or even pious reactions, and developing our relationship with Krishna, reawakening our relationship with Krishna. So yes, he would do that in his translation, but he usually explained it in the purport. Okay, Vijay Krishna.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. The quote from the introduction is, quote, "When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet," end quote. So, in accordance with this quote, I do not know when is it that Rupa Goswami will give me shelter under his lotus feet. But if it does happen that he is giving me, that he gives me shelter under his lotus feet, my question is, what is it that it will happen to my life? Is it that I will become a Rupa Nuga? What is the meaning of being a Rupa Nuga?
Rupanuga means someone who's following a Rupa Goswami. Literally, that's what it means. And it's understood that means immersing oneself in his writings, especially Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, under the guidance of the representative of Rupa Goswami, and integrating those practices into one's life, and reading his other books. I mean, it's like the Stavamala. The Stavamala means a garland of stavas, of prayers. It's an anthology. And there's one in there I'll share with you. It's 2 verses, okay, the size of the little ones in the Bhagavad Gita. And there's 2 verses of names of Radharani, 10 names of Radharani, and then 2 verses containing the benefits of chanting this. So I'll give you this. It won't take long. This is writing of Rupa Goswami. So this is part of what it means to get shelter under his lotus feet. It means to get attracted to hearing from him and serving him. When we're serving Srila Prabhupada and we're serving the movement, we're definitely serving Rupa Goswami. Because he's part of the 6 Goswamis. Those 6 Goswami song is important to know. So what is the essence there? It says, Krishna kirtana gana nartana pado premam vitambo nidhi dira dira janapriyo priyakaro nirmatsaro pujito Sri Chaitanya Kripabaro Bhuvibhavo Bharavahantarako Vande Rupa Sanatano Dagriya Goshi Jiva Gopalako. I offer my obeisance unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who are completely dedicated to and absorbed in loud chanting and dancing, like chanting of his name, Krishna Utkirtana, not just Kirtan, Utkirtana, Gana, songs, Nata Pararo means dancing, Niyamatsaro Pujito. They're completely free of any pride, and they're worshipable by all. Krishna Utkirtana, Gana, Premamritam Bonadi, they're oceans of prema. And they're worth taking shelter of. They're loved by the Dhira and the Adhira, the self-controlled devotees as well as the ruffians. They were popular with everybody because they were just emanating this kindness and compassion and love. No one could hate them. No one could and they didn't want anything. They were just, they had nothing, and they were just giving. So, what does it say? Sri Chaitanya Babaro, they're bearing the burden, or they're bearing the gift of Lord Chaitanya's mercy throughout this world. and thus delivering everyone. That's just the first verse. So this whole movement is a movement of Rupanugas. We're trying to follow in its footsteps as far as possible, become advanced in devotional service, following the path that Lord Chaitanya chalked out and gave him personal instruction, and then aspiring to one day taste just a drop of the incredible ecstasy of love that they're feeling for Radha and Krishna. That's the meaning of this verse. And so, and all of those verses, I won't go through them all now. So yes, so the prayer is, when will he who has established with the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. So that means, when will I, be worthy enough to feel myself under his protection by serving Lord Chaitanya with great sincerity in the mood of trying to establish his mission all over the world. Then you'll feel the shelter of Lord Chaitanya, of Rupa Goswami. It's a great prayer, and we can learn this one and chant it every day. All right, can I go on?
Yes, of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. All right, we're now, Krishna is declaring how this Bhagavad Gita is coming down in the middle of chapter 3, page 3. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is, directed by the Personality of Godhead Himself. In the 4th chapter of the Gita, 4:1-3, the Lord says, chant after me, Imam vivastate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshvakave bravit evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu Sakale hamahata yogo nashta parantapa sahevaya mayatedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosime sakhacheti rahasyam yetaruttamam. Here the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god, and the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ikshvaku, and in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down. But in the course of time it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He tells Arjuna that he is relating this supreme secret to him because Arjuna is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that the Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are 3 classes of transcendentalists, namely the Jnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, or disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that the Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjuna, especially because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his intimate friend. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjuna's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter, but briefly it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 different ways. 1. One may be a devotee in a passive state. 2. One may be a devotee in an active state. 3. One may be a devotee as a friend. 1 may be a devotee as a parent. And 5. One may be a devotee as a conjugal lover. Arjuna was in a relationship with the Lord as friend. Of course, there is the gulf of distance between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is transcendental friendship, which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Every living being, out of many, many billions and trillions of living beings, has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Swarup. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Swarup, and that stage is called Swarup Siddhi, perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjuna was a devotee, and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. Now, I have to interrupt this because I promised you something and I didn't give it to you, and that is this little poem about Radharani's names, just to illustrate Rupa Goswami's wonderful gift. So here's just 10 names of Radharani. It's called the Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss. You've heard this before? So here's the names. It says Radha, Damodara Preshta, Radhika Varshabhanabi, Samasta Ballavi Vrinda Dammilotang Samallika, Krishna Priyavali Mukya, Gandharva Lalita Sakhi, Vishaka Sakya Sukini, Haridid Bringa Manjari. That's not so difficult to memorize, 2 little verses. So I'll just tell you what the meaning is, then I'll tell you what the benefit is of chanting these. Okay? So the first name is Radha. We know that one. Damodara Preshta, most beloved of Damodar. Radhika, Krishna's foremost worshipper. Varshabhanavi, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. And then Samasta Ballavi Vrinda, so that refers to all the other gopis in Vrindavan. But she's the Mallika garland on the head. It's called a chaplet. You can make a garland for just the head of all these gopis. Meaning that she's the chief gopi. It's just a poetic way of saying, metaphorical way of saying. And then it says, Krishna Priyavali Mukya, the foremost of the dearmost of the Krishna's gopis. Krishna Priyavali Mukya, Gandharva, a wonderful singer. Lalita Sakhi, the friend of Lalita, and Vishaka Sakhi Sukini, she who is made very joyful and happy by the friendly activities of Vishaka. So that's 10 names. Then here's the benefits. Imam Vrindavanishaya Dashanama Manoramam Ananda Chandrika Nama Yo Rahasyam Stutim Pate. So that verse means that these 10 names of Radharani, when chanting to the mind, and called Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss, one who recites this confidential stotra, this rahasyam, it's very confidential, then you get these benefits. Saklesha rahito bhutva, you become completely free of all miseries. That sounds pretty good. Bhuri saubhagya bhushita, you're decorated with tons of good fortune. And Twaditam karunapatam radha madhava yobhavet. You quickly become the object of mercy for Radha and Madhava. Now, if that's not like minimal investment and maximal result, I don't know what it is. I once printed this out. I used to go to New Vrindavan every year for a festival around Mother's Day. It was always around Mother's Day, which is the first Sunday in May, I think. And so it was a nice festival. It was called the Festival of Inspiration, and we'd have different speakers, and everyone had maybe 40 minutes, like that. So I presented these names. I printed them out on a sheet. I had a picture. I laminated them. I did 25, because I was going to give them out. And then I gave them out to the first 25 people, devotees who came. Like a year or 2 years later, I'm up in Toronto for my yearly visit for the Ratha Yatra. I used to travel a lot at that time, before the pandemic. And I was staying at this devotee's house. He was about 20 minutes from the temple, Indian gentleman. And he had these ladies who heard that I was in town. They wanted to come and visit me. And they had been at that festival 2 years earlier, and they memorized those things. They wanted to chant them. I came over and I chanted. So this is Rupa Goswami. It's so many beautiful, prayers. I could every night, if you ask me, I can give you 1 or 2 verses. And it just completely absorbs the mind in Krishna. There's one, Navajala Dada Bidjun Jota Varna Pasannao, Vadanayana Punar Chadu Chandra Batangso, Alikatilika Balo Kesha Vesha Papullo, Bhajabhadatamanore Radhika Krishna Chandro. So the last line I put into a little poem. Maybe one day I'll put the whole thing in a poem. O wretched mind, just worship Shri Shri Radha Krishna Chandra and dive into an ocean full of endless bliss and wonder. So this is Radha Krishna's poem for beginners. I mean, it's no more intimate than coming before the deities and looking at Radha and Krishna. Anyone can do that, right? So these are things that they share. So what are their complexions? Oh, Krishna has a complexion of a fresh rain cloud, and Radharani is just like a lightning, golden lightning. And it goes on like that. I don't want to get too far away from the Gita. But Rupa Goswami has given us all of these vibrations. He dedicated his life. He slept like 1.5 hours a night, if that, hardly 8. And what is he writing? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, these poems from the Stavamala, and so many other instructive plays, beautiful plays about Radha and Krishna, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, all for the upliftment of the souls, of fallen souls. That's explained in that Goswami Ashtaka. So you asked me, that's what the answer is. All right, moving along. We have a few more minutes. Oh, a question?
So here it says one may be a devotee in a passive state.
Yeah.
So how can you be passively in devotion?
By just thinking of Krishna. That's the Shanta Ras. Like just to think of Krishna. But there's certain qualifications. It's explained in the CC. You can read it. I think Lord Chaitanya is teaching Rupa Goswami. Different rasas. So it's like you don't have an active service, so it's not really dasya ras. But your service is to always think of Krishna, and the qualification is that you're happy just thinking of Krishna, and you're completely detached from any material attraction, completely pure of that. So you're waiting for Krishna to step on you. I think the grass in Vrindavan, the flute is said to be in a passive state. It doesn't actively do anything, but Krishna, uses it. It can be a very exalted position. The gopis complain to the flute. They say, oh God, I forget this one. It's in the CC. You're very hard. You're dry. You're full of holes and knots. So by what pious activity did you perform to always be embraced by the hands of Krishna and kissed by his lips? We have to wait till the nighttime and run out. But you always get with Krishna. So that's Vrindavan for you. Go ahead.
I also have a question. So at first, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken to the sun god, and then the parampara was lost. This knowledge was lost.
By the force of time.
Yeah, in due course of time. And then Krishna wanted to establish a new parampara and speak it to Arjuna. But now we have a different parampara, which is starting from Lord Brahma. And so my question is, so the different 3 different paramparas, and how should we understand it?
Well, the point is that ultimately it all goes back to Krishna, right? So Krishna didn't speak to Brahma; he actually inspired him in the heart, and that's how he became acquainted with the ocean of truth, and it came down to Narada, Vyas, like that, etc. So, but that parampara became kind of diluted over the years, right? That's the problem. And then you have, because different yugas come on, then you have the Kali Yuga, and everything gets disrupted. So Krishna came and he did all of, what he did. He annihilated all these demons. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita. He taught Uddhava. And especially he left the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam was written by his expansion or his incarnation, Vyasadeva, for the enlightenment of all. So the point is that Krishna is renewing these teachings in different ways at different times. And the main idea is that we can trace our genuine parampara all the way back to Krishna, to Brahma, and down. And the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita, he's reviving it, this eternal knowledge, and it's coming down through Arjuna. I mean, Arjuna, you don't hear Arjuna opening a school or taking sannyas and getting a lot of disciples. He was one of the brothers there, and then when Krishna left shortly thereafter, they all went to the Himalayas and went back to Godhead. But Arjuna's very important role was being an example for how to receive the Bhagavad Gita. his dilemma at the beginning, which we'll read about when we get to the first chapter and second chapter, he's representing our confusion faced with the dilemmas of the material life. And what we need in that condition is knowledge, is guidance, is proper guidance, how we can overcome it. And so there's like an archetypal element to it, whole thing. That Arjuna is the perfect student, and if we want to understand the Gita, we need to follow in his footsteps. Ultimately, we just read it a week ago. Kadashe vachanang tava. By your mercy, my illusion has been dispelled, and therefore I realize that I'm going to act according to your desire, even though it goes against my gut desire, my emotions, my material mind. I recognize that that's secondary. And that's, the essence of discipleship. So I think it's like that Arjuna is the ideal receiver of Bhagavad Gita, and he represents all of us. We come across life's dilemmas, and we're faced with very difficult decisions. So we need to get proper guidance from Krishna as representative. All right, let's go on. Okay. So, where were we? Arjuna Vacha. How Arjuna accepted? Is that where I am? Yeah, that's how we... bottom of page 4? All right, we can read one more paragraph. How Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter, 10, 12 to 14. I'll say, you say, Arjuna Vacha. Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shastratam Divyam Adidev Majam Vibhum Ahustram Shayak Sarve Devashir Naradastata Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bhavishime Sarvame Tadvitam Manye Yanmam Varasikeshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadanabha. Arjuna said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept this truth, all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. After hearing the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Living Being, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dhamma means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Shastratam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, the original person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn, and Vibhum, the greatest. Now one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery, but Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of the Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only by himself, Arjuna, but by authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever Krishna says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad ratam manye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? So just to clear up one thing here, when you read this, it says, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna accepts Krishna as he is, right? that's the beginning of the previous paragraph. After hearing the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Lord, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma. But wait a minute, this is just the 10th chapter. How is it said after hearing the Bhagavad Gita? Because this is kind of a high point in the Gita. This is the 4 essential verses of the Gita. 10, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya bhavavo mattak sarvam bhavartate madhvācārya mam buddha bhava samanvata. There's these 3 stages in bhakti. It says sambandha, abhideya, and priyojana. Sambandha is understanding who I am, what I am, who is God, what is this world, and what are the relationships between them. Abhideya is the practice to realize this. Sadhana bhakti. And priyojana is the ultimate goal. Pure love of Godhead and going back to Godhead. So the first thing that Krishna says, I am the source of everything, everything is coming from me. That's sambandha. In other words, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have the same thing in the Bhagavatam, the Chatra Shloki. Before there was any manifestation, I existed. Therefore, everything is coming from me, like that. So then the second half of the verse goes to Abhideya. What do you do if you really believe that? Then you're engaged in devotional service. Bhajate mam ananya bhak. No, he says, Aham sarvasya bhavavam mattak sarvam bhava iti madhva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Those who are intelligent, they accept this truth and they worship me with all their hearts. How do they do it? Next verse. Matchitta madgata prana bodhi antak parasparam. Katayantastamam nityam tushyanti chadamanti cha. That they place their minds on me, matchitta, and their life energy is directed to my service, madgata prana. And how do they enjoy? They get together and they glorify me. Bodhi yantak parasparam, katayantastamam nityam. They're always glorifying me together, and tushyanti chadamanti. They become very satisfied and blissful. You see? And then, well, what do I do on my side? Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi yantite. Some of you may recognize that verse. For those who are thus always linked to me in devotion, then from within their hearts, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. And then the last verse, he's really describing his relationship. Tesham eva nakampata mahama jnanajam tamha nashiyam yatma bhava sto jnana dipena basuta. That out of compassion for them, these devotees of mine, I, with the shining lamp of knowledge, destroy the darkness of ignorance in their hearts so that they can come to me. So then Arjuna says the verses that we just read, Param Brahma Param Dhamma. So that's it. He accepts Krishna as God, and and then he's ready to fight, right? No. That's only the beginning of the 10th chapter. We need more ways in which we can think of Krishna. So Arjuna, on our behalf, not because he wants to know, how can I see you? How do you manifest yourself in this world? Then he goes into the whole thing of bodies of water on the ocean, of fighters I am Arjuna, of authorities I am Prahlad. He has a whole list there of aquatics I'm the shark, like that. In this way, when we see anything, the principle that we see anything with any kind of power or beauty or wonder, we say, oh, this is just a spark of Krishna's splendor. So the rest of the Gita really is for us, so that we can develop our bhakti. That's all we have time for. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bo. We'll resume there on Monday, and I think, how am I going to keep the space here? All right, so tapas, you keep it. Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, the bottom of page 5. One of you will remember. Yeah.